What is the truth as you see it? Good morning. Privileged to have you on, by the way. Thanks for coming on the show. What is the truth as you saw it when you made that documentary, Jermaine?
Well, the truth's in the numbers, Nick, which are if you're a young black man in the UK, and in London in particular, you're 9 times more likely to be stopped by the police. Now, from my opinion, this isn't it's not an attack on the police at all. One of the big things that I learned from making the documentary from start to finish, I came into the experience thinking, we need to get rid of stop and search. And having spoke to a lot of the people that are being stopped on a regular basis, my mind changed as I got towards, the middle and the end of the documentary. And it was nothing to do with let's get rid of stop and search. It was more, the police need this as a tool to help protect the public. But the way that they implement it onto the streets and the way that it is done in such a way that the numbers it seems very directed just towards young black men. And I think that's where the police need to look at themselves and figure out a new way to implement stop and search onto our streets, because essentially it's just creating a lot of hate and a lot of mistrust between each community and the police.
You say that the truth is in the numbers, Jermaine. In 2019 to 2020, 65,000 criminal acts were discovered in stops, 34,000 arrests, 4,418 arrests for possessing weapons. Jermaine, if it's in the numbers, surely you support... I think we might be on the same page in that properly done, it's a vital tool. Done unfairly or discriminately, it needs to be banned. I think we're on the same page. Jermaine?
100%. And you know what, Nick, I'm a big fan of your show, and I knew this was going to be the conversation. I knew it was going to be the numbers. I knew exactly the angle you was going to come from. And that's why it was important for me to make the documentary in the way that I did. It was an open book for people to form their own opinions as to how things are. The weapons, I've also done a documentary on knife crime, which is still on BBC iPlayer. So my understanding of knife crime and what bereaved parents go through is vast. And that's where the need for stop and search is obviously still a great tool that can be used. And so nobody's saying get rid of it. All we're saying is improve your level of intelligence to the point where we're not just throwing blankets and stopping every black person on the street, assuming that every single one of them is carrying a knife or carrying drugs. Because white people carry knives and drugs too, Nick.
They do. What is the impact on, I'm going to say young black male, could be a female as well, but young black male, 15, 16, 17, 18, every time he goes out with his mates, if he's lucky enough to get in a car or whatever, he gets nicked. Oh, sorry, he gets stopped. I shouldn't say nicked. What's the impact on that young man, potentially, Jermaine?
Well, I think from if you look at it's almost like a sliding doors thing. If you've got a young white man and a young black man, and they're both going down the same road, they've got the same aspirations in life. They want to go to university, they want to go on to further education and jobs and so on and so forth. And one of them, the young black man, is continuously getting stopped every week by the police. He starts to become criminalized, not only in his own mind, but he becomes criminalized by the public when they see him being stopped on a regular basis. That in turn can massively affect his confidence levels. He doesn't feel like he belongs in the same place now as the young white man, or that he can be in the same place as the young white man. And then when they arrive at those job opportunities, you've got one person that's very confident and one person that's thinking, well, I'm not going to get the job because I'm black now, or because of these issues that I've been suffering my whole life, being stopped by the police, in which period, by the way, one of those stops may not have gone well. So, there is a part in the show about obstruction, which is essentially where if the police don't seem to be getting their way, obstruction is a tool that continuously comes up in terms of you are obstructing arrest and we're going to arrest you for that. Now, at that point, because let's get this straight. If I get stopped, if you're going to the coffee shop every morning, Nick, and I stop you every other day, at some point you're going to get annoyed.
Yep.
And you're going to go, hang on a minute, I'm not having this. There's the obstruction charge. There's the criminal charge on your record. And there's a difference in terms of what could happen to my life and what could happen to your life moving forward.
Dame Cressida Dick, who's the Commissioner of the Met, is hopeful that body-worn cameras could be a key part of this. The work you did for the Channel 4 documentary, what is your take on those? How do you sense officers respond to those cameras, Jermaine?
I think it can be done better, if I'm totally honest with you. In one of the cases in particular with Jamar, a young 16-year-old lad who was accused of carrying a samurai sword, and he was held at gunpoint, a taser on his neck, on his knees in the middle of the road. And after the whole ordeal, his mother has gone to try and get the body cam footage to try and form a complaint as to what has happened to her son. essentially after, well, I think the whole ordeal would have been 10, 15 minutes long. The police had 6 seconds of body cam footage, which is ridiculous, really, because it's there to protect the police as well. You know, because in those moments there where they're going to be questioned and scrutinised about their own behaviour, surely as a police officer, you can go, hang on a minute, have a look at how I behaved. Here you go, here's the full 10 minutes, I did everything accordingly. But when things like this are happening, and I'm not saying it's always happening, this is just one particular case,
right?
That's where the mistrust comes between the public and the police, unfortunately.
So lastly, we're on the same page. We agree it is a vital tactic. It has to be done properly, professionally, courteously. Lastly, again, the Met and other forces up and down the land are working very hard to try and get ethnic recruits. Do you think more young, doesn't have to be young actually, more non-white police officers might bring about some kind of sea change, Jermaine?
I mean, that is one question I kept asking. You know, whilst I was having this kind of going on this journey, I was like, why don't you want to become a police officer? You could be the person that could start the change. You could, you know, but essentially, you speak to young black men, and the connotations with the police are negative straight away in their mind. Nothing about joining the police force is positive. So it's the police. You know, in my opinion, the police have a job here to somehow build the bridge between themselves and the black community. You know, at the top level, Nick, I think only like 1% of senior officers in the whole police force in England are black. That's a really, really terrible number. Because if you look at I mean, you know yourself, you're speaking to everybody on the streets every single day. And the UK and London also is it's multicultural as it's ever been, and the police force needs to be representative of that. So the closer they get to that, then the more we will see young black men or young men and women from ethnic groups in particular joining the police force.
Okay, before I let you go, you're one sports star who's made the transition to broadcasting absolutely seamlessly. I'm a massive fan of your work. I really enjoy watching your broadcast, and it's a privilege to have you on the show. I've got to ask you, though, a word on Naomi Osaka, who you've probably heard as the tennis player who's decided the pressures of media interviews, she's going to quit the French Open. It would appear she's a woman who has emotional health concerns. Should it be part of the setup that this girl signed up to play tennis at the highest level? Correct, should she have to do all these broadcast interviews? Jermaine?
I don't think so, no. I don't see why. You know, I think, you know, I know within my sport, within football, because we're part of a team, I was in a dressing room a lot where there was a lot of players that refused to speak to the press. You know, you think about somebody like Paul Scholes, for example. When did you ever hear Paul Scholes speak to the press?
Never.
He never spoke to the press because he didn't want to talk to them. And all he wanted to do in his mind was play football. Yeah. He loved football. I want to play football. And it's exactly the same for Naomi. She just wants to go out there, play tennis. Yes, she has her issues with the press, but she's voiced those concerns with regards to her own mental health, and therefore should be more than happy and allowed to go and just play the sport that she loves. I think it's disgusting, Nick, to be honest with you.
Totally.